Good morning, all of you. Welcome back once again in online class. See, in the previous class, in the previous video, we were talking about the topic constructor, and 5 points I have mentioned about the constructor. Out of 5 points, 3 points we have discussed. And today we have to continue our topic from the point 4 and then point number 5. Okay. I hope that all the 3 points are clear to you. Today we are going to discuss more in detail point number 4. So topic was constructor only. Okay. So put the heading constructor only. Fourth point was constructor is used. That was the use of the constructor. Constructor is used to initialize the object, or you can say that it is used to initialize the instance variables. Okay, so let us understand the meaning of this. What is the meaning of this point? The constructor is used to initialize the object, or constructor is used to initialize the instance variable. See, if you are initializing the instance variable, ultimately you are initializing the object. Let us see how. In order to understand this point, let me take one example. Suppose if you have a class XYZ. In the class you have made two variables, int A and int B, and we know that the variable which we define inside the class and outside the function, they are called instance variable. Any confusion? Very clear it is. And we know that also in class 10 also we have discussed the same thing. They are called instance variable. Okay, later on we will discuss why they are called instance variable. Or we can understand now also, very simple it is. Instance means object. So variable which are associated with the object. The variable which are associated with the object is known as instance variable. Okay. Now question is that, what is the meaning of association? Yeah, what is the meaning of associated with the object? Associated with the object means when you create the object, then only its existence take place. That is the meaning. Means as many times you create the object, that many times the creation of instance variable will take place. For example, this is class, these are the variables. If you are making any object, how we make the object? We know that XYZ OB1 equal to new XYZ. So what will happen internally? System will allocate a memory. A computer will allocate the memory of total 8 bytes. That memory size depends on the variable which you have made here. Integer occupy 4 bytes. This is also integer. It will also occupy 4 bytes. Total 8 bytes. So when you create the object, system computer allocate the 8 bytes memory. Out of 8 bytes, 4 bytes will be for A and 4 bytes will be for B, and the address of this memory will go to the object OB1. Suppose the address of this memory is 201. What does it mean? This object is pointing towards this memory. This is the internal process take place when you create the object. Now see, the memory has been allocated for the variable A and B. When you have created the object, this is the meaning that instance variables are associated with the object. If you make another object, let us take another example. Suppose you have made another object. The same process will take place again. What will happen? Again 8 bytes memory will get created. Out of 8 bytes, 4 will be for A and 4 will be for B. And address of this memory will go to the OB2. Let us take example. Suppose if you have address 205. Just taking example. It means that this object is pointing towards this memory. I have created two objects, 2 times instance variable has been created. Though they have the same name A and B, but difference is there. This A and B is for OB1 and this A and B is for OB2. Is it clear? That is why they are called instance variable. That is why they are called instance variable. In memory they are available distinct copy. Separate copy is created for every object. If you make the conclusion, so conclusion is coming that instance variable gets created separately for different objects. Okay, till here no doubt is there. Okay. We were talking about that the constructor used to initialize the object means instance variable. Now see, if you are making any constructor XYZ, so what is the use of the constructor? To initialize the instance variable. So suppose if I want to initialize variable A with some value, suppose A is equal to 2, B is equal to 3 semicolon. This is my constructor. In the constructor I have taken the value of A 2, I have taken the value of B 3. Is it clear now? Now see, when you make the object, let me come to that point again. If you are making any object XYZ OB1 equal to new XYZ, what will happen? Last time we have discussed that constructor gets invoked at the time of object creation. Here I am creating the object and this is your constructor part. It means that this constructor is going to get invoked when you create this object. Okay, now see, the moment this function executes, what are you doing? Keeping the value of 2 and keeping the value of B3. So what happened? Now see, this is the situation. When you create the object, immediately A will receive the value 2 and B will receive the value 3. Or don't say receive. Immediately the A value will get initialized by 2 and B value will get initialized by 3. Immediately while making the object. Now read this sentence. Constructor is used to initialize the instance variable. See, instance variable has been initialized. Once instance variable has been initialized, it means that object has been initialized. Why? Because this object is pointing towards this memory only. So indirectly, what you have done? You have initialized the object. So initialization of object means you are initializing the instance variable. So for that purpose only we make the constructor. Generally, not generally, but this is the main purpose. This is the main purpose of making constructor. Okay. Question comes, why we make the constructor? So this is very simple. Sir, we make the constructor. What is the use of constructor? Constructor is used to initialize the object. If somebody are telling that constructor used to initialize the instance variables, then also it is okay. So this is the meaning of this point. This is the meaning of this point. Okay. So you can initialize this variable A and B by any value. Not necessary that it should be 2 only, B should be 3 only. It can be initialized by any value. So generally we initialize the instance variable by its default value. 0, 0. Now very important thing to be noted down here. Sir, why we are initializing the variables? Why we are initializing the variables? Answer is that so that this variable should not contain any garbage value. I know system will initialize this variable, but we have a doubt may this variable make and take some garbage value. So we make the constructor, so that we can initialize instance variable with the legal value, that is why we make the constructor. Now one more important point to be noted down here, sir. Okay, we have come to know that about the constructor, so we are making the constructor to initialize the variable. But before constructor also we were writing the program, and that time we never made the constructor to initialize these variables. So answer is that when we do not make the constructor, computer itself call a constructor to store the default value, and if you are making your own constructor, in the program, then computer will give the preference to your constructor. Computer or system will invoke your own constructor, and if you are not making any constructor in the program, then computer will call its own constructor. Is it clear? Okay, so if you are not initializing a and b, then also I get the default value 0 and 0. From where this value is coming? Computer itself calls a constructor. Okay, and when a computer calls its own constructor, that constructor is known as default constructor. So when you read the book, you will get this term default constructor. So you can say default constructor is a constructor which is invoked by the computer itself, to initialize the object with the legal values. Okay. So this was the meaning of fourth point. Constructor is used to initialize the object. Okay. So by the diagram it is very clear to you. Internally what happens when we create the object. Now we have last point, number 5. Constructor is responsible to create the object. So this is the last point about the constructor. Now see, very important point, and a lot of confusion will come to you. Sometimes we say that, sir, new keyword is used to create the object. And we have read also from the book. Okay, at some places you can say that new is the keyword to create the object, but actual answer, constructor is responsible for creating the object. Actually, with the keyword new, we are allocating the space. We are not creating the object. Why they have written in the book creating the object means, see, allocation of space. I can say that this book is object. Why? Because it occupies the space. This book is taking the space. Okay. So new keyword allocate the space. Creating the space, we can say that we have created the object. So that is why in some book it has been said that new is the keyword to create the object. So it is not that much wrong. Okay, it is fine. But generally, usually, new keyword is used to allocate the space. For the object. And who is responsible to create the object? Constructor is responsible for creating the object. When constructor gets invoked, then object gets created. Now here very important question is that, sir, in one point you have said that constructor gets invoked when at the time of object creation, and here you are telling that constructor is responsible to create the object. Constructor is responsible for creating the object, or constructor is responsible to create the object? Constructor is responsible to create the object. Now sir, first object gets created, then constructor gets invoked, or constructor gets create, or you can say constructor gets invoked, then object gets create. Answer is that both the things take place simultaneously. So we cannot say that which one is executing first. Both the things take place simultaneously. Okay, and both are responsible to each other. Means when object gets created, constructor gets invoked, and when constructor gets invoked, object gets create. That is why we have given the name also constructor. It constructs something. So actually it not construct something, it construct object only. Okay, we have one more term is there, destructor. It is not available in the Java. Means it is not, this topic is not there in the Java. If you go through the other language, C or C++, not C, but in C++, because C is not an object-oriented programming language. C++ is an object-oriented programming language. There also we have a concept of object. So there you will understand that we have two terms, constructor and destructor. Constructor to create the object, destructor to destroy the object. Okay. So there in C++ we make the destructor also to destroy the object. Sir, why we are destroying the object? Because when object gets created, it allocates the space in the memory. So we need to destroy the object. If you destroy the object, memory will become free. And we want space in the memory so that other program can execute. Okay, but in Java we are not making a destructor. Reason is that because Java automatically calls destructor. No need to make any destructor. So this is a little bit something more about the destructor. Okay. So Java only supports constructor and destructor. Java supports, but automatically. We are not supposed to make any destructor for destroying the object. Okay. So this is about the constructor. So if examiner asks what do you mean by constructor, so from these 5 points only you can write down the definition. The first 2 points are very important. So you can use first 2 points for the definition. If examiner asks state 2 features of constructor, then again first 2 or first 3 points is important for telling features of a constructor or characteristic of a constructor. What is the advantage of making a constructor? What is the use of constructor? The answer is 4th point. Why do we need a constructor? If they are asking the question, so you can say that we need a constructor to create the object, or you can say we need the constructor to initialize the object. So we have 2 points for that. So whatever the question comes, you will get all the answers from the 5 points only. The next topic is that we have different types of constructor also. Let us discuss what are the types of constructor. So we have a next heading. Types of constructor. So we have 2 types of constructor. In class 10 also we have discussed the same thing. In here also it has been given to us in class 12 also. Types of constructor. So we can say that we have a parameterized constructor, and the second one is your non-parameterized constructor. if you want to take examples, in one example we can discuss both the points. Class XYZ is there, let us change some name, class ABC, suppose. And if you are making a constructor ABC, this is your non-parameterized. How? Here I do not have any parameter. And what is the meaning of a parameterized constructor? If you are making a constructor ABC with a parameter, suppose int A, opening and closing. So this is the constructor, parameterized constructor, and this is your non-parameterized constructor. Simple. So how will you define it? So a constructor which does not contain any parameter and a constructor which contains a parameter, they are called parameterized constructor, and which do not contain parameters, they are called non-parameterized constructor. Non-parameterized constructor is also known as default constructor. Okay, don't get confused with that default constructor. Same only. So we have a two definition of default constructor. Default constructor is a constructor which is invoked by the computer itself. That is also default constructor. And if a constructor does not contain any parameter, that also known as default constructor. Why we are telling default constructor? Because the computer which the constructor which he calls computer, that is also non-parameterized. That is also non-parameterized. That is why we say that non-parameterized constructor is also known as a default constructor. Okay, so if you write any definition, so both are correct. Both are correct. But give this preference to this definition. Default constructor is a constructor which does not contain any parameter. This is your default constructor. This is your default constructor. So these are the two types of constructor. Okay. Now few more things are there in this chapter. What do you mean by instance variable and static variable, instance method, static method? That we will discuss in the next class. And after that, means 1-2 more topics are left. Then this chapter is going to get over. Okay. Instance method, static method, that also in class 10th also we have discussed. In class 10th also we have discussed. Anyhow, one more time I will discuss as a revision. It will be revision for you. It will be revision for you. Okay. So topic constructor is over. The topic constructor is over. Please go through the book also. Please go through the chapter. Okay, just read. Just one time read it. What is given in the book. And if you have any doubt, any line, any paragraph, you can ask me. Okay. So simply listening the class, simply listening the lecture is not enough. Whatever the topic I am teaching you, please search it where it is there in the book. Turn the pages, open the chapter and find out, okay, where it is there. So if you read, let us see what the book is telling. Same thing what we are discussing, or something extra. So if anything is different is there, I will tell you also at the same time. Okay. Okay, thank you so much, and God bless you all.